Hi everyone. Today we are focusing on student life and opportunities at Leeds. If you have any questions, we will have time at the end of our presentation to discuss them with our panelists today. So please refrain from asking questions throughout the presentation as we will have a Q&A session at the very end. I'm Simona and Thank you. I'm Simona, and I'm your host for today. I'm from the capital of Latvia, Riga. I lived there for most of my life before moving to Leeds in 2019 to start university here. I'm currently studying in year 5 of my degree, studying in an undergraduate degree in Chinese and Japanese studies. I have lived in 2 different university accommodations, and now I live in shared private housing, so I will be able to share my experiences with you today as well. Moving on to my fellow panelist, Amanda, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, my name is Amanda. I was born in Leeds and I live in Leeds. I work in the accommodation office, so we're responsible for allocating all student accommodation. We work with new students and students already living in Leeds, so we can offer you advice about accommodation and discuss things like how to apply, discuss options, and also support you once you're here in Leeds too.
Thank you, Amanda. Dilshan, can you introduce yourself a little bit as well?
Hi, I'm Dilshan, and I'm from Sri Lanka and the Philippines, though I've spent most of my life in Jakarta, Indonesia. So I'm in my second year of communication and media, so I moved into Leeds in September 2022. And in my first year, I was a catered student at the university's Devonshire Hall, which is one of the more unique and I think historic accommodations that the university provides. So I can provide more insight for you today.
Thank you, Dilshan. Moving on to Nat.
Hi everyone, I'm Nat. I'm originally from Derbyshire, which is in the East Midlands of the UK, where I've lived my whole life. I moved to Leeds in September 2020, where I had my first year in Central Village, which is a university accommodation, which I'll get onto in a bit. And then since then, I have lived in kind of multiple different private housing around Headingley and Hyde Park. I'm in my final year of studying economics after taking an industrial placement year last year.
Thank you. Moving on to the next slide. To begin, we should really start with the city. Next slide, please. Lots of you may know where Leeds already is, but if this is your first time living away from home, whether you're moving within the UK or across the world, a good place to start is seeing where Leeds is actually located. So from the map, you can see it's in the north of England or in the middle of the UK. Leeds is well connected nationally and internationally with excellent transport links. It's only 30 minutes from Leeds Bradford International Airport and 1 hour from Manchester Airport. The city is well connected to other parts of the country, by rail, and you can reach London in just over 2 hours. By living and learning in Leeds, you'll find yourself at the center of the city's business and cultural life. You will find that there is always plenty going on with live music, food festivals, and major sporting events all happening within reach of campus. Leeds is a major UK centre for finance and law, as well as digital, tech, and creative industries. Many graduates from Leeds actually choose to remain in the city after graduation and take up employment in one of these dynamic sectors. Since the university is one of 4 universities in the city, there are other higher education institutions too. Leeds becomes a very student-friendly city, and you can find lots of options for accommodation. Whether you're looking to come as an undergraduate, postgrad, or with a family, we will discuss all of these options. Dilshan, what would you say you like about Leeds?
So I find Leeds overall to be a good blend of something that's not too large and hectic and overwhelming, but also not too small or like in the middle of nowhere. And I also like the diversity alongside the great student population, like you said, which I think just makes it the perfect destination for university.
Great, thank you. And Nat, what do you think stood out for you when considering study in the UK?
I think a big part of Leeds was the fact it's a really student-oriented city. So obviously, as you said, 4 other universities, so there's a really big student population, and with that comes a lot of kind of what goes on in the city is, aimed at students. And for me, that really stood out. And as Dilshan said, it's very vibrant, very diverse, and busy enough that there's always kind of something going on. So there's, any night of the week, if you want to do something, I'm sure you'll be able to do it. So I think it was just kind of a mix of all those factors for me.
Brilliant, thank you. Moving on to the next slide. These are some of our favorite spots in the city. One of my favorite places to visit in Leeds is the Corn Exchange. It's a beautiful Victorian building where you can find loads of small independent shops inside and even a cafe in the middle. They sell everything from postcards, vintage clothes, and artwork to music instruments, piercings, and plants. And it's lovely to have a stroll around there once in a while, even if it's just window shopping. Sorry, passing on to Dilshan now.
So in the middle top, you can see the Marion Center, which I think if you're a student here will become somewhere that you'll find yourself going to often. So it's just a hub of everything, right in the city centers, and there's supermarkets. And recently there's been lots of multicultural restaurants and shops, clothing stores, bowling. And so that's one of my other favorite places. And right beside that, you can see the Leeds Art Gallery, which is home to, I think, one of the best art collections, British art collections outside of London. And there's new exhibitions going on all the time. There's also a stunning cafe there with like traditional columns and mosaic ceilings. Yeah, I'll pass on to Nat.
What would be down at the docks. It's a really, really lovely area. It's very kind of recently invested in, so it's all very nice and modern and new. And in there is the Royal Armouries Museum, which isn't probably my only favorite museum in Leeds, but also in the country. It's really, really interesting, really interactive. And I used to come there before and even moved to Leeds, so I think that'll always have a special place for me. But the docks is lovely, and particularly in the summer, you know, when the sun's out, it's a really nice place. You can just go and have a walk around or chill out. It's lovely.
Brilliant, thank you. What about you, Amanda? Do you have a favorite part of the city?
Well, Leeds has changed a lot over the years. It was developed into a major mill town, but by the mid-20th century became a large urban centre. I like the fact that there are plenty of shops, plenty of places to go and eat in Leeds. We also have the Leeds Arena, which is host to a lot of famous events and groups, famous artists and events. And it's a really good location just for visiting the surrounding areas as well.
Thank you all. Next slide, please. From the city, the campus is a close walk, and hopefully this presentation will show you that everything is close by and well connected in Leeds. So whether you end up living close to campus or in one of the suburbs of Leeds, you're bound to experience an amazing student life. Next slide, please. As mentioned, walking distance from the city, you'll find our single-site campus. The campus setting means you'll quickly feel part of the community that is friendly, welcoming, and diverse. It will quickly become your home away from home, a place to make new friends and settle into university life. Dilshan, what would you say is your favorite part of about the campus?
I'd say the community feel to it, with the students' union being right at the center of campus. It kind of ties everyone together and creates like a very, I think, social and welcoming environment. And also just how I think aesthetically pleasing it is. When I do tours, people always compliment the blend of like the historic and new buildings and the hills and the nature.
Thank you for your input. Many accommodation options are not based on campus. However, when you first come to the University of Leeds, regardless of where your accommodation is, living in university accommodation is a great way to help you make the transition to university life, find your feet, and make new connections in a safe and welcoming environment. Next slide, please. When you apply to Leeds as an undergraduate student or an international master's student, you're guaranteed an offer of single university accommodation for your first year. If you're an international undergraduate student, you can live in accommodation for all years of your study. However, you must apply within the relevant deadlines, which we will explain later. There are a range of accommodation options from modern, purpose-built apartments to converted mansions. Some are on campus and others you can find close by or slightly further away in popular student areas like Hyde Park or Headingley. I lived in Lupton Residences during my second year of studies. It is the cheapest out of the accommodation options at the university. However, even being the cheapest, it's still a great place to live in. I had such a fun time living in Lupton and made great friends that I live together with even now in private housing. Lupton's territory has loads of green spaces and even barbecue spots that students can use in spring and summer when the weather is nice. It's split into smaller blocks of flats, so there's still a sense of community while not being overly crowded. How about you, Dilshan, and Nat? Would you like to share your experiences a little bit as well?
So I stayed in Devonshire Hall in my first year, which you can see in the bottom photo. And I think I was a catered student, and it's the only catered option that the University of Leeds provides that has its own dining hall, which I think, for a first year student made it much easier to meet and talk to new people. And it has its own gym, lots of formal events always going on, and lots of its own little areas like study spaces as well. So, I think it's a nice starting point to be put into like a smaller community as well.
So I stayed in Central Village, which is just off campus. It's about a 5-minute walk. And I think the main benefit for that was it's right in between the campus and the city centre. So you're within walking distance to everything you need to be. There are a load of shops nearby. And you've got access to, like Dilshan said, the Merrion Centre is literally a 5-minute walk. And then obviously really close to the campus. And it's one of the more newer accommodations that the University of Leeds provides. So with that comes, it's very modern, it's very clean, very nice, and I really, really enjoyed it in there. I stayed in a big tower, which was already, so the view over the sea was amazing as well. And then in terms of the amenities, there was a little gym nearby, which was great, and then also a common room where me and my friends would quite often go and play pool, or some people play table tennis, put the football on, stuff like that. So yeah, that was really good.
Thank you both. When considering your rent, it's important to consider what your rent will include. When living in university accommodation, your rent will include the following bills: electricity, gas, water, laundry facilities, and Wi-Fi. So it's really nice to come and not worry about these things for the first year on campus. An additional bonus, you also have the basic membership for the University Sports and Wellness Center included. This is called The Edge. There is also a choice of facilities and cost depending on your budget. There are self-catered options, meaning you'll cook for yourself, and catered options, meaning you'll have a prepaid meal plan. There are ensuite options where you'll have your own bathroom, or bathroom sharing options. So it all really depends on what you want. And you can find more details about this on the relevant accommodation websites we will share throughout this presentation. Next slide, please. Your room will be more than just a place where to study and sleep. It will be your own space to call home. It's a good idea to think about the type of accommodation that will suit you and what you can afford based on what we talked about in the previous slide. At the University of Leeds, for undergraduate students, you can find a selection of 19 residences for being catered, a generous price range, and a variety of contract lengths. Nat and Dilshan, what did you consider one of the most important aspects when considering your accommodation?
I think first of all, distance to campus. So I ended up living off campus, which I think initially I was a bit bummed out about, but I think we'll touch on later about how walkable Leeds is. But I think, especially if you have a busy course, it's always nice to be closer to campus to save some time. And also, I guess, living with other people, if you want, a shared bathroom or a studio. I was quite shy, but, I found that living with other people provides like a great social platform. So I was quite happy with that as well.
One of the first things for me was cost and making sure it was affordable for me, so I could live sustainably throughout the year. But then also the social aspect was a big part of it. I met some of my best friends in my accommodation who I'm still friends with and live with now, which is a really good thing. And then also, as Dilshan said, the distance. I wanted to make sure I had everything I needed within the local area.
Thank you both. And Amanda, is there any advice you would like to offer future students at this point when they are considering accommodation?
I think just when deciding accommodation, just think about what you would like. We've got a range of options, from Victorian houses to purpose-built residences, all ranging in different sizes, housing from 40 students up to 1,000 students, a range of locations, like you mentioned. Furthest away is Lupton, but it's only a 30-minute walk on really good transport links and cycle routes down to the university. So there really is something that, to suit everybody, really. Consider whether you want catered accommodation, if you want self-catered. The contract lengths vary as well. So they all start in September, run right through to sort of June or July. A range of prices to suit all budgets as well. And as also that you mentioned earlier, that the rent also includes the gas, electricity, water, Edge membership, laundry, internet and insurance. And there's lots of photos, 360-degree views as well on the accommodation website if you want to have a look on there.
Thank you, Amanda. On to the next slide. Living in residence gives you the freedom to live on your own while still having the support you need to successfully transition to university life. It is a great opportunity for personal growth, to experience student life, to make new friends, and to be a part of a thriving student community. As a part of residence, your residence life team will be ensuring that your experience in halls is the best it can be. The residence life team is also here to offer support. Each hall has a residence life warden and a team of residence life assistants who are there to help you with any issues that you may have during term time. Residence life assistants will provide you with advice, guidance, and support. If you do have any problems, your residence life assistants or warden will work with you to solve them and help you develop essential skills such as managing conflict. They also run events to help you settle in and ensure that you have a positive experience in halls. These events give you the chance to try new activities, learn new skills, and meet other people with similar interests. Dilshan, have you ever participated with residence life in university accommodation?
Yes, I have. So it was always nice to see what was going on because there's always events going on with Res Life. Devonshire Hall, I think you can see in the bottom right. We hosted a lot of formal dinners from time to time, so we got to dress up, wear gowns, and it was just a really nice time. But I think another personal highlight for me would be the Christmas ball, which the Res Life team organized, where we went to a hotel nearby and had a really good time.
That sounds amazing. Next slide, please. Yes, to go over deadlines and applying, I'm going to hand over to Amanda.
Thank you, Simona. The application process, you can apply between the 1st of November and the 1st of July for accommodation to move in September. So for step one, you need to have accepted your offer to the university, whether that's conditional or unconditional, before you apply for accommodation. So for undergraduates, this means you must have accepted your Leeds as your firm offer through UCAS. If you've done this, then you can apply for accommodation from now up until the deadline, the 1st of July. If Leeds is your insurance choice, but you've now accepted, then you can apply between the 13th of August and the 31st of August, and you'll usually need to wait 2 days after accepting your offer before you can apply. So for step two, this is where you would choose your accommodation. So you take a look at the residences on the accommodation website and explore the different types of accommodation we have. Choose between catered and self-catered residences. Step three, please let us know if you do have any special requirements. There is a section on the application form where you can add any additional information. It just helps our team allocate accommodation to you. It is a little bit more difficult if you tell us after the deadline if you do have any special requirements, because we've already started allocating accommodation. So you can read the special requirements webpage for more information on that and how we can support you. So step four, to apply for your accommodation. So the application form is available to complete on our website via the accommodation portal. So again, submit it before the 1st of November and between the 1st of November and the 1st of July. You can complete the accommodation up until the 1st of July to be guaranteed accommodation for unconditional and conditional offers. To access the portal, you need to set up a password. So you click on the create account option, and then you'll receive an email to create a link. And then once you've done that, you can log on and apply. Step 5, to submit your application. So just check all your details on your application form and click submit. Once you've submitted, you'll be sent an email, and that will summarise your application and all of your preferences. So step 6, we will allocate you a room. So we can't guarantee your first choice, but we'll make every effort to try and find you something suitable, something similar to your choice of accommodation when you've applied. Again, if you have an unconditional offer, we'll allocate you between the 17th of July and the 1st of August. And if you have a conditional offer, we'll allocate you after your offer becomes unconditional. So between the A-level results and around the first week in September. So don't worry if your friends find out you've been allocated. We do have a lot of applications, around 9,000 applications to allocate, so everyone will hear at different times. If you're a postgraduate student, we'll email you in July to give you additional information about applying for accommodation. Step 7, to accept your contract. So once we've allocated you your accommodation, we'll send you an email. If you check your junk and spam folders regularly to ensure you don't miss the mail. The mail invites you to log on to the accommodation portal, read all of the terms and conditions. Once you're happy with all of those, you have 4 days to accept and pay your accommodation deposit. So yeah, you can accept that through the portal, and then we'll send you a link to access the online induction as well, and set up an instalment plan to make all of your rent payments. So deadlines and applying. Rooms aren't allocated on a first-come, first-served basis, but you must apply by the 1st of July if you are a new international student on International Foundation year, an undergraduate or postgraduate degree, or September exchange student. You must apply by the 31st of August if you're an undergraduate student where Leeds was your insurance became firm, or if you've accepted a place through clearing. And then exchange students arriving in January, if you can apply by the 1st of December. So again, you apply on the accommodation portal once your offer is firm. Okay, and when can you expect to hear back? So once you've submitted your application, you'll hear from us between the 17th of July and mid-August if you have an unconditional offer. If you hold a conditional offer, we'll allocate your accommodation when your offer becomes unconditional, usually between mid-August and the first week in September. So around 70% of people do get their first choice of accommodation. But as I mentioned earlier, if we can't allocate you first choice, then we'll try and allocate you something suitable and similar to the choices that you've put on your application form. So residences on campus are quite oversubscribed, so just bear in mind and keep your options open, pick a few residences that you like, and then put your one option of accommodation on the application form. And then look out for our email. We'll send you an offer of accommodation, and you have 4 days to accept and pay your deposit. So now I'm going to pass back over to Simona for a more personal experience about living in accommodation.
Thank you, Amanda. That was very useful information. Now, at one point in your undergraduate degree, you may consider moving into private accommodation. There are so many options with private accommodation in Leeds because it's such a student-friendly city. Unipol is a registered charity that works closely with the university to help students and staff find suitable accommodation. Unipol own and manage their own properties as well as advertising for other owners in Leeds. You can find available properties, advice, and support on the Unipol website. They organize house hunting events throughout the year where you can meet other students looking for accommodation and help to get you started with house hunting. They also have a student-to-student message boards where you can tell people what you're looking for and read adverts from people wanting to fill a vacancy. Additionally, there are lots of great housing advice on the Leeds University Union website, including how to check the standard of accommodation, whether your landlord is reputable, plus deposit information and tenant satisfaction rates with local landlords. It's important to note, though, that we would really recommend when you first come to Leeds that you live in university accommodation. Most students only consider private accommodation after their first year of university accommodation. Dilshan and Nat, could you tell us a little bit about your experience transitioning from university to private accommodation?
So yeah, I agree that I think university accommodation was always going to be like a must for first year and then private onwards because I think similar to Nat, I found the people that I'm currently living in private. I lived with them last year in university accommodation, so it's just easier to find people, and then once you are in second year, um, to have I guess more like your own space and to share more space with people you're comfortable with. So overall, I found the transition quite nice as well.
I agree. I think it's an absolute must. When you first come to university, it gives you, that opportunity to meet a whole range of new people, rather than kind of trying to find someone online to go into private accommodation with before you've even come to uni. I feel like that, that's always a bit of a task and can go quite badly quite easily. So going into university accommodations, provides you with a safe space with a load of new people, and it really gives you that kind of social aspect that you imagine when you're thinking about coming to university. And in terms of transitioning into private accommodation, I could, again, really enjoyed it. I'm now in my third year of private housing, which I've really enjoyed. And also, I think going into these kind of like private places is really good because it feels a bit more personal to you, as it's kind of like your own house, and so you get to kind of a bit more choice into where you go. So yeah, it's a really great experience.
Yeah, I also had very similar experiences to both of you, so I completely agree. Yeah, thank you. Moving on to the next slide, we are going to look at the areas around Leeds. Once you become familiar with Leeds, you'll soon see how well connected the city is. Whether you're on one side of the campus going through Hyde Park or meeting people in the city centre, there are lots of great transport links, but you can easily walk around Leeds as well. Now, I know for some international audiences, walking 20 minutes might sound like a really long time, but I promise you'll soon adjust. In Latvia, for example, people are also not that keen on walking for too long and instead choose to go on public transport. So it was a little bit of a culture shock for me at first as well. How about you, Nat and Dilshan? Could you share your experiences with this aspect of living in Leeds a little bit?
So I spent most of my life in Southeast Asia, and so I used to commute by car everywhere. So it was like a bit of a shock hearing the 20-minute walk, but I think you just get used to it, and the way Leeds is constructed with it mainly being a straight road and with parks, walking with friends, it just makes it a really nice experience, and so the 20 minutes never really feels like 20 minutes.
Just following on from that, even if you're not too keen on the idea of a 20-minute walk, we've kind of touched on the fact that Leeds is very well connected. There are really good transport routes. So if you're going up into Headingley or into Hyde Park or any back into the city centre, there are loads of different buses that run pretty much constantly, and you'll never be waiting for more than a few minutes, which is a really big benefit if you're not looking for the walk.
Thank you both. Moving on to the next slide, we will talk about our experiences with living in the surrounding areas in Leeds. For the past 2 years, I have lived in Burley. Out of all of the Leeds areas I've lived in before, I'd say it's my favorite so far. Burley is definitely quieter than Headingley and Hyde Park, but it's still about 15 minutes walk to Headingley and its many pubs and restaurants. From Burley, the walk to uni is about 25 minutes, but the best part is that you get to walk through Hyde Park on the way there, which is especially beautiful come springtime. And passing on to my fellow panelists again, Dilshan and Nat. Could you tell about the areas you currently live in, please?
So I currently live around Headingley, and it's also one of my favorite places, I think, away from the city center. Much more laid back than the city center as well, but it still has those like diverse array of cuisines and restaurants that the city center would have. And there's also lots of, charity shops, pubs, churches, and like stores opening. So there's always things to do.
In Hyde Park, which is, I'd say, where probably the majority of the University of Leeds kind of students in private housing live, which is really good because it means there's a really good social aspect to it. Everyone around you is, in the same boat as you, and they're all a student, so it's really, you're really close to your friends. There are also not as many kind of pubs and things as Headingley, but there are a couple. And another benefit is the fact that you are very close to the campus. Most spots in Hyde Park are only a 10 to 15-minute walk, and then a 5-minute bus journey into the campus, and then just from that is the actual park itself. And as Simona said, that is really, really, really lovely in the spring and summer. Again, a really good social spot. Loads of people just go on there and chill.
Thank you. Moving on, talking about the city. If you're looking for a very lively student experience, living in the Leeds city centre might be for you. Right at the heart of all of the action and within walking distance of the university, it's a terrific location for those wanting to enjoy the hustle and bustle of city living whilst being still close to campus. A city rich in culture, you can spend your weekends exploring the many museums and art galleries in the centre and learning more about the history of Leeds during your time here. The Leeds Street Art Trail has pieces located all around the city centre for you to admire, so you might find a masterpiece right on your doorstep. For entertainment, you'll have a pick of amazing theatres and venues like the Grand, O2 Academy, and Belgrave Music Hall, so it's easy to see the latest show and enjoy local gigs. Leeds city centre is also a fantastic location for shopping, with everything from large shopping centres like Trinity, full of high street names, and havens for independent retailers such as Corn Exchange, which was mentioned before, and Kirkgate Market, and even luxury arcades like Victoria as well. If you're a food and drink lover, Leeds is known as the foodie capital of the North and is home to a wide range of culinary delights with cuisines from all over the world and options to fit any budget. Additionally, Leeds bus station and railway station are both situated in the centre, meaning links to anywhere are easily accessible from the area. Next slide, please. Living in accommodation is the best way to meet people, build close friendships and a support network, especially in your first year of studies. If you have a preference, you can specify if you want a single gender flat or to share with others who share a similar faith, for example. Living in student accommodation also gives you the opportunity to learn to work with other people and build life skills, particularly if this will be your first time living away from home. As previously mentioned, in student residences, the bills are included in rent, and this also includes energy, such as gas, electricity, and water, insurance, internet, the Edge membership, and laundry expenses. Most accommodation will also have a shared common room area to have more opportunities to socialize with the people you live together with. Thinking about what resources can be shared between your flat will also save you the trouble of ending up with 6 toasters and 6 microwaves. And cupboard space is very important when you live with other people, so you don't want to end up having to put a toaster or a microwave in your precious cupboard space. And if you don't want to or are unable to take bedding and kitchen paraphernalia with you, you can pre-order a kitchen pack and bedding from the university. While there are many international supermarkets in Leeds, if you're coming to Leeds from abroad, you may also consider bringing some absolute essentials from your own country. For example, there aren't that many Polish stores in Leeds, so being from Eastern Europe, I've brought certain spices from home that I can't really easily access in Leeds. And another thing you need to consider is the location of your residence and the commute to university. Consider things like how long it takes to walk to university from each accommodation, or what kind of public transport there is available in the area, or things like the hobbies and interests you have and whether you will be able to keep up with them where you choose to live in Leeds. Luckily, though, Leeds is overall a very walkable and compact city, so that shouldn't pose too big of a problem. When it comes to security at university accommodation, there's always wardens, receptionists, and campus security on site who keep university-owned residences secure. There's also fob access at most residences where you can't enter the territory without a key. However, it might be still useful to familiarize yourself with the areas that your commute might take you, so you always know your whereabouts. And an additional tip would be that I suggest you take something that reminds you of home or things to decorate your room with. Every room I've had here in Leeds has always been more lively with little bits from home and a nice poster or two to fill up the empty spaces in your room. And to my fellow panelists, would you have anything to add to this?
I think it's really convenient that the university accommodation does do all bills included. It's just very convenient. I think many private accommodations do the same, but with Leeds, I think it also comes with the Edge membership. So that's just a plus.
Say I really agree about bringing things from home. I remember when I moved in, I had pictures of kind of my friends that still lived in Derbyshire, one of my family, and then one of my dog, which really kind of transformed what was an empty room into a much more homely space. And then you're absolutely right with the kitchen appliances as well. We turned up in first year and we had 3 toasters, which it wasn't ideal, so we had to sell them on eBay and stuff. But yeah, it's definitely, I think one of the best things about moving away is it's that step out, and in terms of maturing and learning how to like balance your food budget or all those kind of important things like buying your bed in and everything like that.
And just to touch on again with regards to security around accommodation, we have 24-hour security services. They can be called anytime if you need any help. Also, residence life assistance in accommodation. They're available to call out of hours. Should you get locked out or anything like that, you can give them a call and they can help you out of office hours. And then, of course, there's the office staff during the day.
Thank you for all of your input. Let's move on to the next slide. If you need to chat to a student from the university, we're here to help you. If you want to know more about student life in Leeds, you can chat to me or any other university ambassadors on UniBuddy. You can ask any questions in the chat messenger on the app or read blogs about our experiences at the university to find out more. If you wish to attend future events, don't forget to register for a UniBuddy account so you can see all of the latest information. Next slide, please. And before we move on to the Q&A section, I just want to highlight where you can find so much more information via Link to Leeds and what we offer, from events like this webinar and Q&A events to blogs and being able to ask us any questions at any time on the website here. We love sharing our student experience with you guys, and we'll try to help you with any questions that you may be concerned about. Next slide, please. And finally, you also may want to consider attending some more of our events in the future, so please have a look at them and see which ones you would be interested in attending. You can see all of them on the slides or using the link on the slide. And thank you. Next slide. And now let's move on to the Q&A. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and we will now do our best to answer all of them.
So I've seen that there are a few questions on specific accommodation for specific courses, and this isn't really kind of something that happens at Leeds. When I was in my accommodation. I lived with a sports scientist, someone who did criminology, and someone who did medical microbiology, and I do economics. So it couldn't have been really any wider ranging if it tried. But yeah, if there are no accommodations, aimed at people who do specific courses, they're kind of all just generally for everyone.
I will input here saying that after first year, when you're looking to go into private shared housing, then you can build your own circle from the same course, for example, if you wish to do so. For example, in my current house that I live with, all of us are language students studying more or less the same languages. So that's kind of what I've done from personal experience. But yeah, in first year, when you're in student accommodation, you will meet a wide range of people with different majors.
I've just seen a question about deferred entry. So if you have deferred entry from this last year, you can apply for accommodation anytime now up until the 1st of July, and you will hear from us between the 17th of July and the 1st of August. And I saw a question about catered accommodation as well. So the catered residences, we have Liddon Hall, Ellerslie Hall, and Charles Morris. Part of that is catered. They're all on campus. And then Devonshire Hall, which is a catered residence off campus, about 10-15 minute walk away. With regards to kitchen accommodation, there is a chance to transfer around October time. You can fill in a room transfer form, so you can find out more information about that once you are here.
In terms of, we saw some questions about cost of living, and in terms of comparing Leeds to other places, for example, I would say that Leeds is more affordable than other larger cities in the UK, for example, Manchester as well. And of course, London is way more expensive than Leeds. The rent prices, especially, I feel like, is a point that is worth bringing up, because in Leeds, the rent would be at least, I would say, £200 or £300 cheaper per month than in London. And compared to my own country, I lived in the capital of Latvia, in Riga. And while Riga isn't as expensive as London, for example, it still ends up being cheaper for me to live in Leeds than rather than being back home, essentially.
A question about being under 18. So if you are under 18 and you're applying for accommodation, you can apply for any residence of your choice, but we will look at how many applications we have in. We may allocate certain residences depending on the number of applications, and look at where's most suitable for you to offer you additional support and make you feel more comfortable where you're allocated as well. Another question: if you're particularly tall, you can apply for any accommodation. You can put your height on the application form, and then we will try and allocate you a room that has a suitable bed. So, for example, one that doesn't have like a maybe a bookcase or a unit at the end. We'd try our best to allocate something suitable for you.
Seeing questions on if there are curfews at the university accommodation, and no, there isn't. You're free to come and go as you please. However, I think there will be, if you're coming in, late at night or early in the morning, you've got to be mindful that there are a lot of students there, so be quiet and be respectful. But there's no, curfew at all.
There have been some questions about where to buy soft furnishings, for example, duvets and stuff like that. As already mentioned in the presentation, you can order a bedding pack from the university before you come to Leeds, or there are cheap options around places like Home Bargains even. There's an IKEA a little bit further out from Leeds, but you can definitely go there as well if you want to. There is also Wilko. I think Wilko is still operating now again. And Wilko usually offered very affordable options for that as well. Personally, I think I've even used Amazon for a new duvet before. So there's definitely options around, but the university bedding pack is really good. I used that in my first year. But unfortunately, I couldn't keep the bedding because I had to go back home for a while, so I had to repurchase them afterwards. But yeah, there are various different options around.
Just in for exchange students that may need accommodation just for one semester. So if you're an exchange student arriving in September, then you would apply the same as anybody else before the 1st of July. If you're arriving in January, we'd ask you to apply before the 1st of December.
Any question about parking, and if that's available or not, and that is it is dependent on the accommodation you're in. Some, I believe, have it included, others don't, and there are kind of many pros and cons with this. Having your car up there can be really inconvenient in terms of, if you're doing your grocery shopping or getting from A to B. However, there might be an extra cost to park somewhere for a year, and then also you've got your car to worry about as well. So it is completely up to you. However, you've got to take into account there are a lot of other factors as well.
With the laundry, so you get a number of credits included with your rent. So you download a laundry app. Usually at most residences, some residences do have washing machines in the kitchens and laundry facilities on site. But if you download the laundry app, then you can use your credits on there. If you do then run out during the year, you can top up the credits yourself if you need to.
Sorry. So there's a question about whether the accommodation team puts you in touch with those in your flat. And I remember that our residence hall warden made a group chat on Facebook Messenger with the whole accommodation cohort, and then we figured out who's in which flat essentially, and then we made a private group chat with those in my flat. So we did communicate before coming to Leeds and got to know each other a little bit better before actually meeting up in person. So yeah, that shouldn't be an issue, and it's definitely a good way to kind of know what to expect, what kind of people you're going to be living with, and definitely keep an eye out for that. Sorry, Dilshan, did you want to mention anything regarding this as well?
No, I feel like you've touched everything already.
A question on kind of shuttle buses going into campus. There aren't any like Leeds, as in University of Leeds, run shuttle buses that get you there. However, as I said earlier, there are plenty of buses that will take you from all areas of Leeds, right, literally out like to the door of the campus, pretty much. So in terms of getting to and from, there's no issue, and it's all really cheap. I believe a student ticket is £1.40 if you use the app, and then you can also buy like a ticket for a year, which would work out even cheaper per journey as well.
So someone's asking about if rooms are shared. So unlike I think the US, you get your own room, but you might still have, as most accommodations do, you might still have a shared bathroom and a shared kitchen.
And quickly to maybe mention about this as well, both of my uni accommodations that I've lived in have been shared bathroom, and I know a lot of people might maybe be a bit shared bathroom averse, if you could say so. But honestly, it wasn't as bad as you would think. I'm somebody who also enjoys their personal space a lot and things like that. But I think it ended up being quite good. There never ended up being a very long wait for the bathroom, for example. That just yeah, it never really happened. So if you're thinking that you want a cheaper option for accommodation, but you are a bit scared about sharing a bathroom, I would say that it's it's not as bad as you might think. So still considering a shared bathroom is it's still a good option. Is yeah what I would like to add.
There's been a question on kind of quiet hours or rules to help you study while you're in your accommodation, and there isn't necessarily like a set time that you need to, it's like study time. It's just that in the evening it would be expected, that you're not coming in and making loads of noise if you've been out or whatever. But there's no kind of orchestrated quiet hours. The libraries, particularly during exam season, quite a few of them I know are open 24 hours. So if you really kind of want to get your head down, they're a great place to go. And there's a few of them around campus as well.
Just with regards to any healthcare students, so you can apply for 4 residencies, all varying in location, costs for your budget as well. So they are Lupton, Devonshire, Sentinel Towers, and Leodis. So we just find housing healthcare students together. It's just better for when you're on placements and things, and then good transport links to the hospitals, and better for your study times when you're studying. It's better you all being placed together, but then of course within the residence there'll be students studying on other courses, so you get a chance to meet other students as well. With regards to getting preference, if you're unconditional, we do reserve a percentage of accommodation for unconditional students and a percentage for conditional. So you have an equal chance of getting a place. It's just that unconditional students, because they already have the grades, will be allocated accommodation sooner rather than a bit later.
Also touching up on this, I didn't get my first choice in my first year, but I would say that it's not something to maybe worry about, because to be honest, the accommodation I actually got allocated in ended up being what I thought was nicer than what I originally applied for, because you kind of end up making friends and going to different accommodations, so you get to see around what different types of accommodations look like in Leeds once you live here. And so, yeah, maybe you end up having a better accommodation than you first initially expected to. And there was a question about whether all residences have kitchens. And I definitely think that all residences do have kitchens, especially since most residences are self-catered. And then the most options that are catered also have an option to choose to be self-catered. For example, Devonshire halls, there you can choose whether you want to be self-catered or catered. So yeah.
Just looking at the question on cleaning services, so it is your responsibility to keep your flat clean and tidy. If you have a shared bathroom, then we do offer sort of like cleaning services. En suites, you would have to clean your own, and then there are inspections from the site office that just come and check and make sure everything is clean and tidy.
Again, touching up on this, in my second year when I was living in Lupton residences, we also had a person that came to empty our bins, I think maybe once or twice a week. And yes, as Amanda said, that they would also clean the bathrooms, I think once a week. So there are some cleaning services, but you do have to make sure that everything is as clean as possible to not, make lives more difficult for the staff that are going to be doing the cleaning up after you.
I've seen a question about recommending catered or non-catered accommodation. So I stayed in a self-catered accommodation, which I thought was really good because it meant I learned to cook for myself. You will find students, some of them will just eat kind of, quick, easy, like oven pizzas or pot noodles and stuff. But learning to cook has been one of the favourite things I've had about university. I'm now cooking proper meals and doing like cooking shared meals with your flatmates or your housemates. That's a really nice experience as well. So I can't recommend self-catered enough, but I'll pass on to Dilshan, who was obviously catered in his first year, and then he can give you the other side.
So I think since I was moving across the world, being catered, at least for the first year, just provided like one thing that I didn't have to think of too much. And yeah, it just wasn't that much of a hassle. I'd be busy from uni, I'd come home and I could just get food, and so that was really nice as well. But now that I am private, I do enjoy being self-catered as well, and cooking as well. Yeah.
There's been a question about whether there is a GP surgery on campus. It isn't on campus, but it's a very, very close walk. I would say less than 10 minutes, probably around 5. It's the Leeds Student Medical Practice, and you will be registered with the practice if you do go into university accommodation. And all of the staff there are very welcoming and lovely. It's very easy to get appointments. And any health problems that I've had, they've always been very forthcoming, and I've resolved them in the end. So it's a great place to have near the university.
With regards to open days, I know there's open days in June, so you could have a look on the accommodation website and the main university website for details of that. They also hold a number of offer holder days, so you can contact your department that you're studying with for information, and a number of residences are open to view on those days.
There's been another question about bills and utilities included in university accommodation. And yes, bills and utilities are included in all university accommodations, but you have to be careful when it comes to private shared housing when you go into it after your first year, because not all landlords provide bills included payments. So you would have to arrange your own bills packages, for example. My private shared housing currently is bills included, but I feel like with the cost of living crisis, it's been getting less and less common to have bills included in your rent. So that's definitely something to look out for.
There's a question, if you have sort of particular dietary requirements, you can apply for any accommodation, but you can put on your form that you do have dietary requirements, and then we can look at allocating you suitable accommodation based on that, with other people that share a similar diet, or if you have specific requirements, that'll go to our medical team to have a look into for you.
Just quick, I don't know if I've frozen that. Yeah, we're all good. Just quickly highlight as well, if you do have any kind of issues with your accommodation, there are, the whole residence life team is ready to help on hand. So if that's maybe potential issues, in the very rare case that you have issues with your flatmates or with the actual accommodation itself, the residence life wardens, it is their job to be on hand to help you guys out. So kind of any concerns that you may have, after you've arrived, can be sorted pretty quickly, and usually are.
Amanda, could you maybe answer a question we got about the earliest move-in date for residences?
Yeah, so the contracts will start around I think sort of the 15th, 16th of September, but keep an eye out because contract starts do vary, but around sort of the second week in September is when they do start. You don't have to move on the contract start date. You can move in any date after that. On the online induction process, we ask you to book a booking slot if you can. It just helps the staff manage at the site, knowing when to expect your arrival. But yeah, just keep an eye on you when you receive your contract. The start date of your contract will be on there, but you can move in after that date as well.
Unfortunately, that's about the time we have to answer all of your questions. And thank you for attending today's webinar. Remember that you will be able to find the recording on the website. And if you have any further questions, you can always pop a message to me or any other of my fellow ambassadors on Unibuddy, and we will do our best to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you very much. And thank you to my fellow panelists. Your input was very useful, and I'm sure some of the students took away good information, and it will help them decide what accommodation to apply for in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think one last thing, there's also a Q&A next Wednesday about accommodation, just so you can ask, you can have another chance to ask more questions. Thank you.
Very much, guys.